I used to believe that consistency was enough. Show up, pay the bills, drive the carpools, put up the shelves, bite your tongue, repeat. I thought that if you were reliable, if you gave without expecting applause, they'd eventually look at you and say, yeah, he's part of us. Not a father, not a friend, just someone who counted. That's the lie you tell yourself in the beginning. My name's Alex. I'm 44. I married Kristen 6 years ago, when I still believed that time plus effort equaled love. She had 2 kids. Jake was 16 then, Maddie 14. They'd been raised in the fallout of a messy divorce, full of accusations whispered in kitchens and custody arguments that lasted longer than the marriage itself. Their father, Tyler, was a ghost who came back just long enough to be mourned again. He missed holidays, birthdays, school events, but when he called, when he texted, when he promised something big, they'd light up like the world made sense again. I never tried to compete. God knows I didn't want to. I didn't want their love. I just wanted a place to stand. First, I told myself things were going fine. Kristen and I had late-night talks, glass of wine in hand, whispering plans for the future. I helped Jake with his algebra when Tyler forgot to call back. I took Maddie to her orthodontist appointments when Tyler was too busy getting his life together. I paid for the extras. I built a life out of obligations, not because I had to, but because I thought that's what family meant. You carry the load quietly. You don't keep score. I should have kept score. The first year, they barely spoke to me. Not out of hate. Out of indifference. Jake would mutter a hey when he walked past, earbuds in, smelling like axe and sweat. Maddie would ignore me entirely unless she needed a ride. But I told myself it was normal. Teenagers. They'd warm up. Kristen said to be patient. Second year, it got colder. The house was full of noise, but none of it included me. They'd laugh over old videos with their dad. Right there in the living room I paid for, while I worked late to cover the mortgage. Kristen would say, "Let them have this." So I let them. I was good at letting things go. The third year, Tyler showed up at Jake's birthday with a VR headset he probably couldn't afford. I bought the cake, drove across town to get it. Tyler got the photos. I stood just out of frame. That was the pattern. I made the frame. He got the credit. Still, I stayed. I adjusted. I learned which battles to avoid, which usually meant all of them. I stopped asking for family dinners. Stopped suggesting vacations. Stopped initiating anything. I existed between the walls, fixing broken faucets, updating the thermostat, making sure the Wi-Fi bill was paid on time. Then came the fourth year when the contempt stopped being passive. Kristen had just gotten home from work. She was in the kitchen, exhausted. Jake and Maddie were in the living room, arguing over the Wi-Fi again. I walked in and offered a simple fix. Try rebooting the router. It worked last time. Jake didn't even look at me. He just turned to Kristen and said, "Can you tell your backup to stay out of it?" That's how he said it. Your backup. Not my stepdad. Not even Alex. Backup. Like I was a temporary hire she forgot to let go. Maddie didn't say anything. Just laughed. The kind of laugh that tells you you've already lost the room. I looked at Kristen. She sighed and rubbed her temple like it was all just noise. Like I was part of the static. She didn't defend me. That was the moment. Not Jake's words. Hers. Her silence. I didn't say anything. Just nodded and walked out of the room. Upstairs. I closed the door to our bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just froze. Like my brain couldn't figure out how to run the program anymore. All those years of being the helper, the fixer, the steady hand in the background, wiped out by one line and a shrug. I started replaying every moment, like watching a surveillance tape after a break-in, trying to see what I missed. There were so many small betrayals I'd ignored. Maddie cropping me out of every family photo she posted, her mom, and her real dad. The captions always read, "The three of us. Never four." Jake asking for gas money without even pretending to say thank you. Like my wallet was part of the house. Kristen deferring to Tyler for major decisions. "Let's see what he says," she'd murmur, as if I wasn't sitting across from her. And me? I'd been shrinking to make room for them. Skipped promotions so I could be home for school pickups. Turned down travel so Kristen wouldn't have to juggle schedules. Paid out of pocket for a new HVAC unit when the old one died in January, just so the kids wouldn't freeze. I had twisted myself into something that fit around their lives, and they still acted like I didn't belong. After that night, something shifted. I stopped offering. If the trash was full, I let it stay full. If the car needed oil, I didn't mention it. When Kristen asked me what was wrong, I smiled and said, "Nothing, nothing." That was the truth. I was nothing to them. The next few weeks were a slow unraveling. I watched Kristen play mediator, pretending things were fine. I heard Maddie on the phone with her grandma, Tyler's mom, gushing about her real family. Jake started calling Tyler more often, bragging about how he was managing without the stepnarc. I stopped leaving my wallet on the counter. Stopped stocking the fridge with their favorite drinks. Little things. I stayed out of it. At night, I slept in the guest room. Kristen didn't ask me to come back. I think we both knew what it meant. That house became a museum of things I'd paid for. The television, the furniture, the washer and dryer, the water heater, all mine. But none of it mine, really. Not when you're just the wallet in the shadows. Not when the people who live there see you as a placeholder for the man who left them. You're just mom's backup. So I backed off. I waited, quietly, like someone watching a fire from across the street. I didn't try to put it out. I didn't grab a hose. I just stood there, watching the smoke rise, wondering how long it would take before they noticed who'd been holding the roof up all along. And the truth is, they didn't notice. Not at first. The house was still. Kristen was out late with a friend. "Some deserved wine night," she'd said, kissing my cheek like nothing was broken between us. I didn't ask where. I didn't ask who. I just nodded and kept washing dishes I hadn't dirted. It was one of those cold nights where every sound echoes a little louder. I was upstairs in the hallway, passing by their rooms on the way to the linen closet. My hands were full of folded towels. I wasn't eavesdropping, not at first. But the door to Maddie's room was cracked open, and her voice drifted out sharp and clear, lit by the glow of her laptop screen. "He's not part of our family," she said. "He just lives here and pays for stuff." Jake snorted. I hadn't realized he was in there. Wouldn't even notice if he vanished. Mom would be better off. I didn't move. Couldn't. My body just stopped. There in the hallway, bathed in the dull light of a dying lamp. I stood perfectly still, towels in hand like a servant, like someone who doesn't belong but pretends to. They went on talking, not about me directly, not anymore, but with the kind of carelessness that proves just how little you matter. I stayed frozen until I heard them start a movie. Some horror thing, loud and messy. They laughed like they hadn't just gutted me with words. I walked back downstairs in silence. Sat on the couch. Lights off. House dark. Nothing but the sound of the television through the walls and the steady, quiet hum of the heater I'd paid to install last fall. And something in me collapsed. Not in rage. Not in heartbreak. Just, finally, fully. They didn't hate me. That would have implied feeling. They didn't resent me. That would have required history. They simply didn't see me. I wasn't their stepfather. I wasn't their mother's husband. I was a line item in their budget. A debit that refilled their lives with comfort. So I started pulling threads. I went into my office and opened the filing cabinet. Mortgage statements, vehicle registration, credit card bills, insurance policies. I flipped through every paper that tethered this family to stability and found something that should have terrified them. It was all in my name. The house, the cars, the internet, the tuition, the savings account that funded their summer trips, the health insurance that covered Maddie's therapy, the credit line that paid for Jake's tires last winter. Every last piece of this life ran through me like silent wiring in the walls. They didn't just rely on me. They existed because of me. And still, I was invisible. So I made a folder. Neat, precise. Every bill they couldn't afford. Every account they didn't control. I wrote a note on the first page. Here's what you won't be able to afford alone. No anger. No threats. Just fact. I packed a single suitcase. Took only what was mine. Tools, clothes, laptop, the kind of toothbrush you buy with intention, not the one someone hands you in a Christmas stocking. I left the note on the kitchen table, beside the fruit bowl Maddie liked to pretend she kept full, and walked out at 2:07 a.m. The world was quiet. Streetlights buzzed. No one stopped me. No one called out. I didn't slam the door. Didn't leave a dramatic hole behind me. I just stopped being the scaffolding they took for granted. And I moved into a rental with peeling paint and honest silence. 3 days passed before I got the first message. Kristen. Text only. No call. Did you leave? Where are you? Why didn't you say anything? I didn't reply. The next one came the following evening. The internet's out. Did you cancel it? Still no reply. Then, finally, the water's been shut off. That one I answered. I don't run that house anymore. She didn't text back. But Maddie did. She posted a story on her Instagram. A blurry mirror selfie in the foggy bathroom, with the caption, "Thanks for the freezing shower face with rolling eyes. Like I was a faulty appliance, not a man." Jake called from a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring. Voicemail came through. Mumbled. Annoyed. "Hey, I guess you're not paying for stuff anymore? Whatever. It's fine." It wasn't. A week later, I heard from a mutual friend that Tyler, their real father, wasn't answering Kristen's calls. Hadn't in months. Apparently, his new girlfriend didn't like drama with the ex. Kristen had picked up extra shifts at work. The dishwasher broke. The heater started leaking. The landlord, me still legally, hadn't been paid rent in 2 weeks. And no one knew who to call. Because the man they never respected was the only one who ever fixed things. They lived in my silence like squatters in someone else's effort. And for the first time in 6 years, I slept without grinding my teeth. Maddie showed up 3 days after that. I heard the knock, slow and uncertain. When I opened the door, she looked like a stranger. No makeup, hoodie, hair in a messy bun, her usual armor gone. She didn't step inside. Just stood there in the hallway of my quiet, rented apartment. "I thought you were bluffing," she said. "Didn't think you'd actually leave." I said nothing. She looked at her shoes. "The house is falling apart without you." I waited. Then, "I don't want you to disappear." I looked her in the eye for the first time in weeks. She flinched. "Do you want me to come back?" I asked. She shook her head. "No, I just don't want to feel like I chased you off." "You didn't chase me," I said. "You erased me." Her lips pressed into a line. Not denial, just acceptance. She knew. Maybe she'd always known. I stepped aside and let her into the front room. She didn't sit. Just stood there like someone afraid to disturb something fragile. I offered her water. She said no. "I can't be your substitute father," I told her. "Not anymore." "I know. But I can be someone who cares, from a safe distance." She nodded. That was our agreement. A truce built on boundaries. I didn't ask about her mother. Didn't ask about the house. Didn't ask what they told Tyler, or if they told him anything at all. She left 10 minutes later. No hug. No tears. Just a quiet, tired girl retreating into a world she never realized I'd been holding up. That night I made a list. A simple one. The names of every person I had been carrying without thanks. And then I drew a line through each name. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. You don't keep feeding people who bite your hand. I was on the couch, eating cold Chinese takeout straight from the container. Her text lit up my screen like it still had weight. Like her words could still move me. They didn't. I replied, "I don't run that house anymore." That was it. No punctuation. No anger. Just a fact. Minutes passed. Then came another message. Longer this time. Paragraph, heavy with unspoken expectations. "The kids are freezing. I didn't realize the water bill was in your name. Jake has a game this week. Maddie's got that school presentation. We're just a little stretched right now. Can you help? Just for this month?" No apology. No ownership. Just soft manipulation dressed up as concern. I didn't reply. The next day, I checked Maddie's Instagram. She'd posted a blurry, half-lit mirror pic. The bathroom was fogged over, tiles streaked. Her caption: freezing shower because the man of the house dipped upside down face. The smiley stabbed harder than the words. Like all of it was a joke. Like I was still just a tool gone missing, not a person who chose to leave. I screenshotted it, then closed the app. Jake tried a different route. He called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered out of curiosity. There was silence for a moment. Then his voice, coated in that same teen arrogance I used to pretend was just a phase. Hey, so, are you serious about not paying anymore? I let the silence stretch, let it chew through him. He cleared his throat. Because, Mom said the tuition office called. Said the payment didn't go through. That's gotta be a glitch or something, right? I kept my voice steady. No glitch. I stopped paying. What? You can't just... His voice pitched up. That's school. That's my future. No, Jake. That's your father's responsibility. Or yours. Not mine. He stammered, stunned. But he's not even... He doesn't answer half the time. You're the one who's been paying this whole time. I know. And I stopped. You can't just vanish. You already said I wasn't family. So I acted like it. Click. I hung up. It wasn't vengeance. It wasn't rage. It was the quiet math of consequence. You subtract a man from a family, you subtract his contributions too. That weekend, a friend from work, someone who lived in our old neighborhood, messaged me. Saw Kristen at the store with the kids. She looked rough. Said Tyler hasn't been helping, and everything's breaking at the house. I didn't want to pry, but she seemed overwhelmed. Overwhelmed. That word used to gut me. Used to summon guilt like a reflex. Now it just floated in my head like a fading scent. Familiar. Meaningless. I still remembered the heater. It had leaked twice before, once in December, once in February. I'd patched it both times, on my knees in the crawl space with a flashlight in my teeth, sweat freezing against my neck. No one ever asked where I was when the movie night got cut short. No one noticed the silence I returned with, covered in dust and disappointment. And now the heater had gone again. I knew it without checking. That house was my blueprint. I could still feel its breath. I watched from a distance. Kristen's Facebook changed. No more family dinner photos. No check-ins at Maddie's recitals. No pictures of Jake in his uniform. Just shares. Quotes about strength, resilience, raising kids on your own. On Monday, I got an email from the insurance provider. Policy cancellation notice. Dependent coverage lapse due to premium non-payment. I'd already removed Kristen and the kids from my policy. Quietly. No fanfare. No final notice to them. I gave a month's grace. That was the leash. She must have noticed when Maddie tried to refill her anxiety meds. They weren't covered anymore. I got no message about it. But I knew. Because 2 days later, Maddie showed up again. This time, she knocked harder. I opened the door, and there she was. Hair pulled back, hoodie zipped to her chin, eyes rimmed red. No mascara. No pretense. I know you don't owe us anything, she said. But I just wanted to explain. I let her in. Same chair as last time. She sat with her hands in her lap like she wasn't sure they belonged to her. It's bad, she said finally. The heater's broken again. Mom's working doubles. Tyler's ghosting. Jake keeps asking for rides and money and she's just unraveling. I said nothing. I thought you'd always be there, she whispered. Even if we didn't say it. Even if we didn't show it. I watched her fidget with the frayed edge of her sleeve. I didn't know it was that fragile, she added. It wasn't fragile, I said. It was just one-sided. That hit. I saw it in her eyes, the flicker of realization. The years of effort, the dinners I made, the homework I helped with, the tire rotations and rent checks and silent forgiveness. None of it had been seen. Not until it stopped. Do you hate us? She asked quietly. I paused. No. I just finally stopped sacrificing for people who wouldn't bleed for me. She swallowed hard. What happens now? Boundaries, I said. You're not kids anymore. That excuse is gone. You don't have to love me, but you'll respect the line I drew. She nodded slowly, then asked, "Can I call you sometimes? Just to talk?" I met her eyes. "If it's not about money, yes." She left without asking for anything else. That was the first honest moment we ever shared. 2 nights later, Jake called again. This time he didn't hide behind a new number. His voice was different. No swagger. Just quiet. I wanted to say sorry. I didn't speak. I said some stupid stuff. Stuff I didn't really mean. I thought you were just background. But I get it now. You were the one doing everything. Even when Dad didn't show up. You were always the one fixing shit. Still, I stayed silent. Then he added, "The breaks. Remember when I said I'd get them done, and you just did it?" I didn't even ask. I was scared they'd fail, but I didn't say anything. And you just fixed them. That one pierced, because I had forgotten it. But he hadn't. I didn't know how much you mattered until everything broke. I finally spoke. "I know." There was a long pause. Then, "I'm not calling for money. Just wanted to talk." So we did. About nothing. About cars. About his new job at the hardware store. About how he's trying to help Kristen now. Trying. I didn't ask if he missed me. I didn't need to. Kristen didn't message again. Not directly. But I heard from a neighbor that she filed for a separation. Quietly. No drama. No fireworks. Just a short legal end to a long emotional one. She kept the house. She got the bills. She got what she had allowed. I got peace. And slowly, quietly, Jake and Maddie started calling. Not often. Not to ask for anything. Just to talk. That's all I ever wanted. Not loyalty. Not love. Just acknowledgement that I had stood in the gap when no one else would. And now, when my phone lights up at night, it's sometimes their names. They ask how I'm doing. They tell me about their lives. And in those small questions, in those quiet, ordinary check-ins, is everything I used to beg for. But now it's on my terms. And that changes everything. It was a Thursday. I still remember that. Early evening. Sky bruised with rain. The kind of quiet that makes you brace for something. His name lit up my phone like a name you forgot was yours to begin with. He didn't start with an apology. He started with honesty. "Tom's just noise," he said. "That's their dad. The ghost. You were the one actually helping. You fixed my brakes when I was too scared to say they were broken." His voice wasn't angry. Not ashamed either. It was something worse. Regret. The kind that doesn't know how to go backward. He told me he'd started paying rent. Helping his mom where he could. Said she was tired all the time. Said Maddie kept to herself more now. Said the house didn't feel like home anymore. I didn't tell him that's because it never was. I didn't gloat. I didn't lecture. I just listened. We didn't talk long. But before he hung up, he said this. "You mattered more than I ever let myself say." That landed. We didn't go back to anything. There was no big reunion. No homecoming. Kristen and I divorced quietly. A single signature. No fight. No final scene. I didn't want to repair what never really existed. I moved into a smaller place. 2 rooms. No need for more. Silence has weight when it isn't full of absence. Sometimes Jake drops by. Sometimes Maddie does. Sometimes both. They don't stay long. They don't ask for anything. Sometimes we get coffee. Talk about work. Talk about nothing. And in those nothings, those little awkward, real moments, there's something new. Not love, but respect. I don't ask them to call me Dad. I never will. That name belongs to someone who never earned it. But sometimes they check in. And for me, that's enough. Not because it fills the void, but because I've stopped offering myself up to be emptied. The lesson wasn't about money. It wasn't about duty. It was about worth. Mine. Years of showing up. Years of fixing things. Years of being erased by silence and still giving anyway. I did it all thinking one day they'd see me. They didn't. Not until I was gone. Now they remember. Now they show up carefully, quietly. And only because I stopped. So I'll ask you, the one reading this, the one listening, was I wrong? Was I cruel to step away from a family that never made room for me? Or was walking away the first time I finally stood up for myself? Tell me, if you were never seen, how long would you keep showing up? How many years would you give to people who never said thank you? And if you finally left, would they even notice? Because when I left, the roof caved in, and no one ever asked who was holding it up.